right now. Let's go to the new one first.
Post in Discord. Stand by.
Okay, do you want to, let's see, what does it say?
Here, I got it.
Okay, go ahead.
Sure. It's responding to an Anon who says, Q, so we have iris scanners for phones. When do we prick our finger and drop blood on the home button to confirm our ID? Clearly a joke there, but is it really? See where this is going. And Q responds, 23andMe. And I don't know how to pronounce this woman's last name. Wojcicki spouse. Why is this relevant?
Okay, now wasn't she the spouse of, who is she the spouse of? Let's check this out first.
Sergey Brin.
The owner of 23andMe.
Oh, the owner of what?
Is it the owner
Google.
of 23andMe? The
No,
DNA.
Sergey Brin was a co-founder of Google, wasn't he?
Yes,
that's what I
she
think.
is the owner of 23andMe, or CEO.
Okay, and 23andMe is, what does 23andMe?
DNA.
DNA collector.
DNA
Correct.
Identity Service. There's something in Discord you can read through.
Okay, I'll get to there right now. Hold on, just,
Thanks, Otter Walks. You're right on top of it again, as usual. Very nice.
pardon me?
Otter Walks is right on top of it, as usual.
Great, great. Let's take a look at it. Okay, and, okay, so this is, okay, pamphlet I see there, and then I see, oh, here we go, okay. So it's all about, it's a public DNA service. Actual agenda is metadata collection. Okay, and Sergey Brin, was Sergey Brin part of Alphabet?
He is now the president as of April 1st.
Right. So the two of them are married.
They were divorced in 2015.
Ah,
Alphabet,
She
Google.
has not remarried since then.
That's interesting. Let's see. Anyone look up any more about her?
She is not
Her
remarried
sister
either.
is the CEO of YouTube.
yep.
Ooh.
Her sister's name is Susan Wojcicki, or Wojcicki, or Wachiki, whatever.
Yeah, no clue how to pronounce that.
Yeah, here we, San Mateo County, she was born. Stanford University comes out of, our father is at Stanford University. CEO of YouTube, right? Susan. And Janet is also another, I guess, also it's University of California. They grew up on the Stanford campus. A lot of the internet comes out of Stanford. Stanford is one of the big breeding grounds for the internet. And she married Google co-founder in 2007. Okay, well, it's Stanford University, and I think you can read CIA. They're probably deeply involved with the CIA. And it's all part of the data collection of the whole internet, which is CIA driven. I think I might drop the first article from the tomorrow. I'm working on it this afternoon to get it ready to go. From the Silicon Valley Insider Anonymous. Okay, in this previous one we get one here where Trump was saying 1165. Russia and China are playing currency devaluation game as U.S. keeps raising interest rates, not acceptable. Okay, anyone think this tweet has to do with Q's posts of the where and why? Also the Five Eyes. Not a coincidence, 25 of 100%. Well, see, if Russia continue and China are devaluing, well, we're raising interest rates. It'll be more to the detriment the dollar. I mean, it'll make their goods cheaper. And basically I'll keep their exports up and keep, their ability to bring in currency up. When they devalue, of course, they're reducing the value of their currency. And if we keep our interest rates up, it's going to boost the value of the dollar, make the dollar more expensive. And this is a situation where, they're basically positioning to try to take a advantage, this 25 to 100%. When they're devaluating and their currency is worth, say, a quarter of what it was, and ours is still at 100%, their advantage is that their goods are cheaper. So they keep the balance of payments in disequilibrium for themselves, because we'll be continuing to buy more goods from China and Russia, but they'll be cheaper. Although with the dollar more expensive, it'll be, a little still harder to come and get the dollars to buy the cheaper goods. So it's a positioning when they expect the dollar is going to be rising in value. And why is it unacceptable? I mean, it's not a coincidence. It's, again, a manipulation of currencies, which Russia and China have been doing for a long time. We get accused of manipulating the markets. I think what's happening is, again, this is part of the Fed's attack on Trump. And the Fed had kept interest rates at zero for all of Obama's administration. It allowed Obama to double the national debt to $20 trillion in 8 years. But that kept the economy from collapsing. In other words, at zero interest rates, and we could borrow that money very cheaply. It pushed the problem off onto Bush, because now onto Trump, because Trump has got the debt. We have to finance that debt. We have to pay the interest on it at higher interest rates, which is going to, of course, be a drag on the economy. Under Obama's formula, we only had growth of about 1 or 1.5% because we were borrowing so much money. Under Trump, growth is much more robust, economic growth. But if interest rates keep rising, it's going to be a drag on the growth of the economy. And Trump knows the Fed is playing this game, as well as Russia and China. He's calling everybody out on it. It's all part of, again, the constant concern about America for sale is that when Russia and China, they should leave their currencies without devaluing it. In other words, they wouldn't be gaining a competitive advantage to keep their balance of trade in their favor, which is what Russia and China want to do. And with their surplus currency, with the currency they're getting in the foreign exchange, they're not going to buy treasuries. So Trump is stuck trying to place all these treasuries at a higher cost when the market for them is going to be shrinking. And it's really unfair. So these first two, the one, I believe, 1167 is a continuation of the theme that, and I'm going to really get full into this theme now on the Silicon Valley, what it's all about, how we dissect and look at Silicon Valley, because it's not just the Twitters and the Googles, it's the entire origin and structure of Silicon Valley, which I've been maintaining, the Larry Ellisons, the Oracles, Cisco's, Sun Microsoft, all these companies which run the infrastructure of the internet are all very, very far left, and are CIA. And the whole purpose of the internet is data collection on us. We have the massive data set that's available now in the NSA and the CIA, which they've lied about for years, I think is covering an enormous amount of data about individuals, and it gets pumped into Democratic campaigns. Okay, let's take a look at the live chat here and see what they're saying. DNA testing, yes. I'm just trying to see what else there. Let's see.
Quick question, Dr. Corsi.
Yes.
Is a return to the gold standard a counter move by President Trump? Because I know there's manipulation on the gold exchange, on the gold markets.
Well, we haven't returned to the gold market, the gold exchange. We've let it. Our currency is what we call a fiat currency. All these currencies are fiat currencies, and the fiat currencies basically mean you can just print as much of them as you want. That's the problem. Is that Richard Nixon took us finally off of the gold standard in the 70s, and since then we've had a tremendous run-up of dollars that have been printed. The debt and the value of the dollar has been diminishing rapidly. So the purchasing power of a dollar is diminished. This whole fiat currency scheme is a leftist scheme to be able to pay all these entitlement payments. And it doesn't work forever because ultimately the debt is unsustainable. At some point or other, the debt can't be financed. You can't pay the debt. It costs too much money in interest payments. Right? The gold and silver are the backing traditionally of currency, and anything not backed by it is considered to be fiat currency. Fiat meaning, let it be, just make it up. Fiat is a word in Latin which means let it be made. Fiat, let it be, just by saying it happens. Doesn't require any gold or any silver to back it. The amount of currency you can create is infinite, and basically it's out of control in terms of the markets today, and it will have to be adjusted and dealt with. I just don't think Donald Trump can deal with it right now. Too many other things to deal with. And people over in the live chat and YouTube are also asking about whether the globalists and clowns are developing genetic DNA strains, and whether this is back into the geoengineering of our food and human beings, when this kind of a database is collected. All of this is kind of when the metadata they're talking about here, 23andMe and spouse, why is this relevant? I think all that means that I think the data collection on DNA is important, but I think what it ties together is that the small group of people who all, basically come from Stanford-based history, continue to dominate the internet. And they are all, we go back further, we're going to find ties with all of them to the CIA and hard left ties, which has been the nature of the internet from the beginning. The internet, I say, was a CIA creation from the get-go. Okay, this 1165, which was trying to argue, I guess, that the QAnon is that before October 2017, the keyword didn't start until November. Well, that's basically when QAnon started posting. And I'm not sure what the point of the, arguing why QAnon wasn't a keyword before then is relevant, because QAnon was not in existence. So that's where he's saying it's distraction. They are here in force. And I think you see an increasing number of the Russian bots all over the internet right now. The troll number and activity seems to me to be increased. Again, let's go back over to the live chat. Anyone see anything over there you want to comment on? people are saying crash the Fed. The Fed really needs to be, eliminated, Federal Reserve, the same as the income tax, both 1913 going back to Woodrow Wilson and this New World Order crowd and international banking trying to corrupt the Constitution. People are also saying the worldwide database tracking blood types and the birth information for every person on the earth. I mean, they are trying to go back to genetic modeling of the population. That's another thing that has never stopped. This whole, genetic issue, genetic questioning for control purposes, which every time you see it, of course, immediately is frightening in terms of the eugenics in the 20s that led to both Margaret Sanger and Planned Parenthood, created largely to get rid of blacks, abort their babies. People don't want to hear that, but go back and read Margaret Sanger's writings. I've written about that extensively. And of course, the Nazis' whole genetic breeding. So the whole DNA issue is creating a DNA and blood base of the population is, I think, pretty, again, it causes a concern. Okay, I'm seeing here, okay, anything else here that we need to talk about for these? Anyone have any other comments on these that we're looking at right now? Go ahead. Anything
not on the last post, but we were just discussing before you came in on the tarmac meeting between Loretta Lynch and Bill.
We're going to be getting to that here in a minute. We've got plenty here on that.
5x5.
We'll get to that in a minute here. Okay, it's this guy, Sergey Brin, Russian, is a Russian-American computer scientist and internet engineer. Together with Larry Page, he co-founded Google, and he's the president of Alphabet. Okay, that's right. And this Ann Wojcicki, president, co-founder, and chief executive of the personal genetics company 23andMe. There's a picture of her with Zuckerberg in the background. I see that posted on the live chat. Okay, so let's continue here. 1164, read 5 Eyes, avoid U.S. data collection laws, Hussein, public dossier, FISA, not public, 5 Eyes, UK, Australia, POTUS, targeting using pushed Russian decoy meetings, campaign insertions, Hussein, Hillary, Loretta Lynch, Brenner, Clapper, National Security, White House, Situation Room Operations, UK, Australia, Assistant Setup. The 5 Eyes are the 5 countries that cooperate in data collection. Let me see which ones they are again. They're United States, Australia. Hold on, I was just looking at that earlier today. QAnon on the 5 Eyes. Let's get the 5 countries identified. Hold on.
I got that pulled up, Doctor, if you want me to read them.
Yeah, read them. Go ahead.
Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and the United States.
Yeah, so we have Canada, United States. Of course, we got all these, the other countries. I mean, you've got Canada.
UK.
All of them are part of the Commonwealth. Canada, Great Britain, the UK, Australia, New Zealand. So it's the United States and the Commonwealth countries. And what we do is we spy on the countries, the citizens of other countries, and then we share the information. The Five Eyes, for instance, in the FISA court application, this I've been expecting to come out pretty quickly because we know that under the FISA court application that Comey made, permission was given to do electronic surveillance on Donald Trump's campaign. But also it was certainly being done by the British intelligence, overseas British intelligence, on a much broader scale. And that data was also shared, I believe, with the FBI and with the White House. And we're going to find that because the Five Eyes avoid U.S. data collection laws. So in other words, if the enabling legislation for the National Security Agency specifies it cannot do electronic surveillance on U.S. citizens, well, that's not the case for British intelligence. So when we can't do the intelligence on our own citizens, we ask Great Britain to do it for us and give us the data, or one of the other Five Eyes. And this is something that Hussein, Obama was doing regularly. And I think they had massive amounts of data on U.S. citizens. We also know now that this was a big point in the McCabe Inspector General's report that came out last Friday, was that we were using the, until I think Admiral Rogers stopped it, the FBI was beginning to access 702 data. In other words, they were making requests about citizens under investigation to the NSA and getting the data from the NSA, which bypassed the FISA court. In other words, they wanted the existing data on people related to Donald Trump. And the NSA was handing it over until Rogers said, we're not doing that anymore. And that's what forced them into going to use this dossier from Fusion GPS to get the FISA court approval. But what has not been public, what is not available is all the Five Eyes data, especially the UK and Australia, where POTUS was targeting using pushed Russian decoy meetings and campaign insertions. So you had Obama, who was going after all this data for the Five Eyes, what they were doing is they were creating these Russian decoy meetings and campaign insertions. So I've maintained Carter Page, for instance, I've maintained was a Department of Justice undercover agent who was inserted intentionally into the Trump campaign in order to get the justification, given Carter Page's previous ties to Russia, for which he was never prosecuted for anything. He was just used to prosecute others. So I think he was, especially in 2015, there were a whole series of cases that the conservative treehouse wrote about.
We have a new queue, by the way.
Okay, let's take a look at it.
Sure.
We'll come back to this one here in a minute.
It's a link to a portfolio, but I'm having issues getting it to load.
It's going very slow. Yeah.
Well, we can see it. Oh, the portfolio is linked to?
Yeah.
It's that NQTEL. We've talked about NQTEL before, it seems like.
Yeah.
Everybody's struggling to download them.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody's trying to download it now around the world. It does seem very slow. Okay, just while that's downloading, let's just finish off this 1164. So you basically had a plan to place, Russian operatives who were government agents, and to set up meetings like these meetings that were set up with Jared Kushner and others, with this Russian attorney. Okay, wait a second. Okay, by forcing the insertions and creating what looked like Russian involvement with the Trump campaign that was manufactured by the FBI, the CIA, and the White House. You know, you basically had Obama, Hillary, Loretta Lynch, Brennan the CIA, Clapper the DNA, you know, the national security operations within the White House, the NSA, the National Security Council, rather, the NSC, White House Situation Room, and the operations rooms, where you had the UK and Australia assisting, and this whole thing was a setup. In other words, it was a plan in order to make it look like the Trump campaign was coordinating with Russia. And then we, especially after we were blocked here from getting the 702s, we had to go use the dossier to get the FISA court based on this dossier that we knew was, again, another fiction. It's Christopher Steele Fusion GPS, which was in part based on the 702s. See, the Department of Justice would get the 702s from the NSA, they'd give it to Steele, Steele would make it look like it was intelligence that came from Russia. And the whole thing was unvalidated raw intelligence. And then we got Australia and Great Britain. Those were the two who did a lot of the assistance in giving us the data they had from electronic surveillance. This was all coordinated by Obama and Hillary with the assistance of Brennan, Loretta Lynch, National Security Agency. I mean, the whole thing was, again, part of what I call the coup d'etat when I wrote Killing the Deep State. These were all the deep state actors in the intelligence and the justice system coordinating and planning together to create this Russian collusion narrative in order to do massive electronic surveillance on Donald Trump and his campaign to ultimately see if they could either defeat Donald Trump with this information, which was starting to come out before the election, or after the election be a basis for impeaching Donald Trump. And that hasn't stopped. That McCabe memo is going to be very interesting. We're going to find more. I'm sure Q will be drawing more on it as well, because it shows a power struggle between McCabe and Comey. And that's going to be the potential to turn the two of them against each other, which they will do. It just popped up. The IQT is
There's a picture in Discord.
Intel, Intel for foreign investments. Right. And it has all these different links to it and these different companies that are there. Let me just see if I can read some of them. We'll have to see what they are. This Envale and the Metabiotica. These are, I believe these are investments that are being made by this group. And it looks like most of these companies would be companies that are, let's see, like Data Robot, so robotics. We'd have to look at what some of these companies are. Metabiotica, Envale, Sigopt. It looks like data collection of various kinds and robotics. But my guess is this is, yeah, there they are. Investment types, I and QT. Let's see if we can do a little bit more on that right now. If any of it pulled up. I bet it has ties to China. Let's see if we can pull it up again over here. Because we're going to come to the pictures that the bank published in Sichuan in China, which Q is posting over the weekend. which is both tied, I'm sure, to the currency manipulation and probably to some of these investment structures. It may also be involved in some of the money laundering going on. But the bank ties internationally are being focused on here. And as well as this international data collection activity that was used. I do think that the Five Eyes is the next stage we're going to find out about how deep this conspiracy went. And I do think that the conspiracy has not stopped, and that we're at the very beginning of the counterattack that you're going to see from Trump trying to get a special prosecutor. And I suspect that as this week gets going, the pressure for a special prosecutor is going to build. Comey's book, while it is, I had the big interview yesterday, and I did not see it. It was too late, and I didn't want to watch it anyway. I'm sure it was Stephanopoulos praising the book, but Comey's just now still self-justifying, and Comey's book, I think, is going to be a tremendous flop. I think it's going to contain information which is going to be detrimental to Hillary, to Loretta Lynch. Comey doesn't seem like anybody but Comey. These next set of posts are all about Ginsburg and Loretta Lynch. And I want to take these more and from a little bit of forward order. So I want to start at 1160. Clowns UIDs here. Armenia, Google, QANON, QAnon search stats by country. Armenia is number one. What did everybody interpret that to mean?
Armenia has quite a presence. CIA has quite a presence in Armenia.
Precisely.
I asked Mr. Shipp about that the other night. He said they have quite. He said they have quite a presence over there, and that made perfect sense. Pretty interesting.
Well, also, what it means is that Q is being followed.
Mm-hmm.
Q is being followed. The UID is, of course, a unique identifier number. It's unique ID. It's, so there'd be a numerical string of numbers that's associated with one given item in a system. So each number in the alphabet, for instance, could have a numeric UID for its position in the alphabet, where A would be 1, B would be 2, etc. That's a system of UIDs. And UIDs are used in various kinds of strings, string being just a group of numbers. String is just a group of words or group of numbers that make a phrase or a sequence of some kind or other, a sentence in linguistics. Linguistic strings typically are sentences. And when Q is saying, I think that QAnon searches, if you do Google QAnon searches by country, Armenia is number one. It's back to the CIA following Google the CIA following QAnon. The CIA would like to put QAnon out of business.
Of course they would.
Right.
We'd like nothing more.
Yeah. They'd be very happy to put it out of business. Now, on this next one, with the tarmac and Trump's tweet about Comey throws AG Lynch under the bus, why can't we find out what happened on the tarmac in the back of the plane with Wild Bill and Lynch? She was promised a Supreme Court seat or AG, Attorney General, in order to lay off Hillary. No golf, grandkids talk, give us all a break. Okay, and so Q has been referring to this tarmac meeting. We followed it. And it says Supreme Court, RBG Ginsburg, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And then, of course, Antonin and Scalia killed clown, the black clown Brennan, was involved in organizing the kill. And as he goes into 1162, again, we made sure a reporter was there to capture. These people are stupid. Remember, there was a tip-off about this. Now, what I think is the case, and earlier Q refers to it in an earlier set of drops, which were also from going back to number 1147, all of which were on the 15th, which was Sunday. 1157, Q says, we thought it was Scalia. Thanks for spelling it out. This is one of the anonymous. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I need to fix the SCOTUS meme. And what Q is saying is, think timing. Loretta Lynch remains the Attorney General under Hillary. Hillary appoints a new Scalia replacement. And then Ginsburg steps down, and Loretta Lynch takes Ginsburg's seat. You get a new Attorney General. That was the plan. This corrects the earlier interpretation Q had, which was that Loretta Lynch was going to take Scalia's seat. And so evidently there's some new information now where they begin to realize that the real plan was that they had someone else in mind to take Scalia's seat, and that Loretta Lynch was being promised to take the seat of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. They're going to keep Lynch in as Attorney General, so at least they could get into Hillary's no new Attorney General could go rogue and start investigating all of the crimes committed to get Hillary to be president. But these memes that are corrected here, Loretta Lynch says she regrets the tarmac meeting about a promised Supreme Court seat. The promise of the Supreme Court seat was really a key, and Loretta Lynch, I believe, being so willing to go along and tell Comey to redefine the investigation as a matter, not a criminal investigation. And Comey didn't like being told that. He makes that clear evidently in the book too. The book doesn't come out until tomorrow. I won't have a chance to really read the book until tomorrow. But from everything that's being dropped about the book, it seems like there's a massive amount of Comey self-justification against both McCabe and against Loretta Lynch, all of which is going to bear fruit when the criminal investigations of these people start. And it's about to start. I thought especially interesting was 1148, when again, Q goes back to the earlier discussion of the issue where he had said public interest keep high, the Uranium One FBI informant, and then Anwan, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Pakistani intelligence, Muslim Brotherhood, and then tarmac meeting, Supreme Court Loretta Lynch deal, and that's when he thought it was for that Scalia's seat would have been where Loretta Lynch would have been positioned. They said coincidence. Said this the Supreme Court Loretta Lynch deal drop, POTUS tweet, tarmac, coming to a theater near you, which pretty much means, I think, that we're about to get the evidence of that meeting being recorded, because it's pretty clear that it was Q and military intelligence that alerted the reporter to the meeting happening, and I'm sure they also had the ability to at least tape the conversation, which I believe the NSA has. And if that's going to be released, that's going to be extremely damaging. This next one, side-by-side graphics are important. To be clear, Loretta Lynch was promised the Supreme Court position of Ginsburg, coordinated, planned, and Ginsburg had big problems. And, there are big problems for Ginsburg. He points out some of how, a few minutes about how extremely leftist she is. And then in 1150, basically calling for, where are the autists? This is the kind of thing that Q wants. I just wrote an article, which is why I'm delayed. I had trouble posting it up on InfoWars, but the system was down. I want to see if InfoWars has got the article. I published an article this morning about Loretta Lynch because I want everybody to be aware of all these issues. A lot of people who aren't following Q are not into as much. Oh, here we go. Following this Loretta Lynch issue. I don't see the articles up there yet. Not quite. I don't think they've got it yet. The InfoWars group today was a little bit disorganized. They were all getting back after this big weekend. Okay, it's not up there yet. Okay, so we go back to the decoding.
Well, by the way, I saw somebody ask earlier how exactly it would be possible for the tarmac conversation to be captured. I have my own opinion on this. I think what may have happened is, as I understand it, there was a reporter who was kind of tipped off by Q Team and told to go capture the meeting on video or on audio. And I think there were reporters on the flight, if I remember right, but they were told to step off the plane and leave while Bill and Ms. Lynch had their conversation. I expect that one of them may have left their phone on the plane.
That's a possibility. I don't think they would have to. They would have to do that. I mean, they're flying in a government plane.
There's also cockpit recording devices.
Yeah, I mean, just turn it on. I'm sure the NSA could record anything going on.
Yeah.
In a government plane. I don't see any difficulty with that. Once they knew they wanted to capture the conversation, I'm sure they were capable of doing it. Okay. Someone's saying okay, we'll get to that too in a minute here. Okay, so I don't think there was any problem at all having to record the conversation. I'm sure the NSA recorded it. I think the NSA can record there's government airplane. Well, I don't see any problem with that. But Q is saying essentially if we keep going here, 1150, really wanting people to get involved in analyzing all this. 1151 side-by-side graphic. S should be Supreme Court. 1153 says that was a typo. POTUS tweet, important going forward. All these things coordinating together with Q. And then 1152, making it now Q. Let's see, that was the first part of this one, 1152. I want to check on, and even on the Q board, get a little bit more precise what the references are here. Hold on.
While you're doing that, and one of the posts refers to Brennan killing Scully, do you think that the NSA has a recording of him either talking about it or hiring or arranging the hit on it?
Possible. They could. I'm not sure they do have specifically that, but I think they're going to be able to prove that it was Brennan ultimately who ordered it when they know who is in fact the person who actually committed the crime. And I think wasn't there a suggestion it was MS-13 at one point or other? It kind of vaguely remember.
I think that was referring to Seth Rich.
Seth Rich, yeah, but didn't they also suggest that on Scalia?
You might be right. I'm not sure. Anybody recall that?
We have to go back and
I've only come across it in Seth Rich's name. He's the only one that surfaces.
I'd have to look at it again. It could be. I just had that recollection that it was. Just taking a quick look. It clearly Seth Rich. No, I just okay. I don't think there was any. It was Seth Rich. I must have been remembering. Okay, here we go. So if we can just continue with this. Hugh says basically, you know, a perfect example of why we're all here. Thank you, Patriot. Thank you all that, you know, following these links future proves the past. We're getting more information now. We're going to have more information now about the meeting on the tarmac. 11:55, focus should also be on Supreme Court promise. Only dropped here. POTUS validating drops with Twitter per planning, timing, future proves past, comms understood. I mean, the only way we know about the Supreme Court promise was on Q drops. There's no doubt about it. That's where it came from. And this, you know, if we look at this is now number 1156. If we look at some of these again, all the ties in here from the previous Q post is one of the things I make in my article is that this is something that we've learned from Q that has been developed by Q over time. We've been having various drops on this. And let's see. The FBI has 30 pages of documents related to the June 27 meeting 2016 meeting between Lynch and Clinton, and proposes non-exemption material I believe Judicial Watch has been getting documents from that meeting. I doubt if they gotten the critical or most important ones. 1157. Interesting how he didn't bother with the question at the end of the Supreme Court question. Yeah, was she promised the Supreme Court seat or AG in order to lay off Hillary? No, question mark. Has POTUS made a statement found not to be true? No. Nothing stated should be discounted, moving fast. Okay, so I think those are all pretty clear that, you know, there's a couple of important points about it. One is the clarification that it was not going to be just for immediately Supreme Court, but she was going to stay for a while, parked in the Department of Justice to protect everything, keep the lid on. And then from there, she was going to be elevated to the Supreme Court when Ginsburg was gone. And there was the one post, maybe we haven't come to it yet, where they were quoted, she comes back to the Supreme Court. On 1163, this was an article, this was a paper put together by Eagle Forum in 1993 on Ruth Ginsburg for a confirmation hearing, which just showed how Ginsburg basically was, you know, off the charts in terms of her feminism, in terms of her disregard of the Constitution. She didn't really believe the Constitution held any sway on her as a Supreme Court justice. And Ginsburg might as well be a communist from that point of view. She doesn't really care about the Constitution at all, and she's made it abundantly clear that she doesn't. So, you know, replacing Ginsburg is going to be a major decision because what is going to be fought is that she is the not only a feminist chair, but she's the far left chair. And if Trump gets to replace Ginsburg with a conservative, it's going to be very important for the dynamic of the court. Now, in these next two, we have this bank, X3, the bank, and it's the where and the why. I believe the floor that is pointed out in that bank is one of the futures and international trading. And I think it has a lot to do with the, buying the U.S. America for sale going on in China, with China increasingly getting assets in the United States through these international stock trading arrangements. And it also probably links into the currency manipulation of China. I tried to see if I could find out anywhere that bank was involved in money laundering. I didn't come up with anything specifically. Anybody come up with more on this? I'm sure this bank, I looked over in the Q Research Board, and it's been looked at extensively over there. But again, no one has any specific or precise idea of why Q is mentioning this bank at this time, except it probably ties together with the mention of Q in China and the currency manipulations.
Just some very weird artwork.
Yeah, the artwork is very bizarre. But
if you look at that statue that is right up front there, it has a lot of the Y head symbolism, which has been referred to by Q before, and that post where that picture is posted is Q says the Y, WHY, but I expect it might be a sort of play on words referring to this symbolism.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be. People are also saying, look at the board of directors of the bank. I haven't looked at the board of directors of the bank, or the cases that bank has been involved in. Is that bank, what are its ties to Goldman Sachs? What kinds of trading did they do on options or other trading on U.S. stock?
It's a Rothschild's own bank.
Is it China?
Yeah. I got a list for you.
Could you post it here? And
sure, just a moment.
Good.
Someone said it's reminiscent of the Shiva statue at CERN. Let me post that.
I brought up a picture for everybody, a much better picture of the statue. It's a massive statue. If you look right down at the bottom, you can see a tiny little guy standing there right under the ring in the bull's nose. There's a lot of very strange symbolism on the statue here. I haven't really had much time to dig into it and check it out, neither has my wife, but this is definitely interesting.
It's filled with occult symbolism and alchemical symbolism.
Did you post that in Discord? Because I don't see it there. Unless you're meaning the one that was posted from the Q drop from yesterday.
It's a different picture from the one that's in the Q drop. It's a much closer up image of that statue that's visible there. Here, I'm posting it right now.
All right, very good.
There you go.
Right over the top of that is the Shiva statue at CERN. There is a reminiscence in the shape of the flames on top of the hands. So just take a look at that. I'm not saying it is. That's what somebody had posted, so I was finding the sauce on it.
I'm not sure it is a Shiva statue. I'm not sure the statue's the main point. I think the Rothschild tie. I'd like to see what this bank has been involved in with Goldman Sachs and others.
Do you see the... Sorry, Dr. Corsi, I dropped the link for you. It's a couple posts up, though, here in our text.
Yeah, I see it. Rothschild-controlled banks, there's a list of them. And here we go. The all over the world. Armenia, Reserve Bank of Australia. They just have Royal Bank of Canada. Let's take a look at the United States Federal Reserve. Yeah, clearly, I mean, the Rothschilds are very much behind a lot of this. Anytime you're talking about the central bankers, the Rothschilds are going to come up. And let's see, China, Bank of Chile, People's Bank of China. This bank is, though, not People's Bank of China. This bank is a separate bank. Are you sure this bank is a Rothschild bank? Not on that list.
Okay, I thought Bank of China was on there.
Bank of China is on the list, but this is not it's the Bank of China.
This is the Shenzhen Stock Exchange. Is that right?
Yeah, Shenzhen Bank and Stock Exchange. This is a stock exchange. More than a bank.
Look at that that toroid at the top of the second, or on top of the bull's head and on top of the flames. That that circular reference. That is reminiscent. I've seen that somewhere before.
I'm not sure the statues are the main focus of Q, because he's not showing the statues. He's showing the building, and
Right.
And he's showing the building in relationship to the where and the why. And that third floor there that is pointed out is one of the trading floors. Let me see if I can find it here. Hold on. How do we spell? It's S-Z, spell Szechuan. S-Z-E-N.
Talking about Shenzhen Stock Exchange, how to spell?
Yeah, S-N-S-Z-E-N.
S-H-E-N-Z-E-N.
S-H.
Yep, S-H-E-N-Z-E-N.
Z-H-E-N.
Yeah, there was a couple. I'm just going to try to see if I can find it here for a minute. There was over in the Q research, someone had really identified the trading floor of the one that is highlighted by Q as being one of the international trading floors that the United States maintains. And if that's the case, that's probably one of the references again to, buying America for sale,
Hey guys.
especially with devalued currency. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, look at this. This is from the Soros Fund. At the top there, look at the names of the funds there. Goog. And one of them, CERN.
These are the Soros funds.
This is one of the investments the funds are in. CERN's one of them, and Goog. See that? The Goog's one of the things that Q's been telling us to look up.
Google is short for the Google, yeah?
I don't see the post. I mean, I see the buildings an upside down cross.
I think I did it in live text.
In live text. Oh, can you do it over here in the Discord?
Chris, you got that, yeah?
Have those been added, or are those just lights? They look like lights to me. I don't think it's been highlighted.
Yeah, those just look like lights to me.
Yes, Chris dropped that. It looks like a screenshot from his phone. It's real skinny. It's up a few posts under Chris Hunter.
Okay, here we go.
It's part of the holdings for the Soros funds, and one of them is AAPL. The next one is GOOG, Facebook, and so on and so on. And CERN's one of them too, but GOOG is one of them that we're looking at also.
Okay. Let's make sure I'm looking at the
So I'm on my phone, sorry, but look up Soros Fund and CERN.
okay, hold on.
Chris, quick question. Is it CERN or Corp or CERN that you're discerning in that top left corner?
Say again, over.
CERN or CER?
I typed in CERN, but I'm not sure what it came up with, but I got the listing of it, and I got some of the stuff we're looking for on top of it.
Here's a link to the Soros Fund purchase of, or the increase of stake in CERN. Discord live text.
It said the architect in the it's this Shenzhen Stock Exchange is Rem Koolhaas. He works with Abramovich.
Huh.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the architects, that's right. The architect, upside down cross. Oh, here we go.
Thanks, good dog.
No worries.
Yeah, hold on. I'm trying to pull this up here in a minute. And this is from the Q research. And it is this guy who is the architect, Rem Koolhaas, together with a couple of other people. He graduated in London, blah, blah, blah. He's got, okay. So he works together with Abramovich. And they've identified him at some of these bizarre eating festivals with, eating off of people, and Club AMO, research into the status of nightlife and its implications. And this is the bizarre kinds of New York lifestyle. And hold on. Yeah, I think a lot, it may have the artists seem to be one of the reasons why this was chosen. But I also think it has to do with buying America, the whole theme again, buying America, that we go back to with Q. Because I think what you've got a devalued currency and you buy U.S. assets, you can buy them as it were cheaper. Because, if your currency is devalued, you have more of it, in a sense. Let me just think that through for a second. Devalued currency, in a sense you can. I mean, it's complicated, but the point about buying America through this kind of an exchange and the manipulation of currencies, I think, are also something that are clearly being referred to. Let me just look up one more thing on this. I wanted to see if there was another. Hold on. Okay, yes, here we go. This is the stock exchange. Yeah, it's a stock exchange. Yeah. It's in a free trade zone. I don't see the one I was looking for earlier, but it has space in it for the for U.S. Operations, various U.S. operations in stock trading and options are in and also depository insurance facilities for the U.S. are there. Hold on. Okay. We've got to investigate more about the bank and the architect and its trading activities, and see exactly what the reference is. It's one of those, sometimes Q drops these. You know, we still haven't had the full explanation of the buildings he dropped in Shanghai, you know, the airport in Shanghai. All of those, I'm still trying to puzzle why he was dropping those and what those mean. The reference to Snowden in Hong Kong. All these things have still not been, you know, fully explained as far as I can see. And it may also be combined with the Bank of China. It may also be part of the Bank of China. The two may be combined there, Bank of China facility. I think we need to do more research on that one before we're going to know. We might not know until later posts. Okay, now before we conclude, I wanted to let me see what the live chat's doing over here.
Here's the Jackal from live chat saying HSBC Bank, Shenzhen, and Armenia ties to Comey. Comey was laundering drug money through that bank, and HRC got over 100 million from
it. Where did you see that?
It's from an individual that goes by the name The Jackal in live chat.
I'd like to see the reference for that.
Yeah, me too. The Jackal, if you have any sort of source for that, please let us know.
Yeah,
They laundered the money through Libya, through HSBC.
Dr. Corsi, I wanted to point out the building that was in Shanghai had a helix pattern built into, superimposed on the building itself. Could that have a reference to 23andMe, the DNA company, and data?
It could.
There's also an article that just recently came out about taxpayer money and Soros, and it was Armenia was like the number one thing that our taxpayer money was going to the Soros Open Society Foundation in Armenia.
Huh.
Yeah, there was a big article I just brought up like last week about that.
I wanted to point out one other thing regarding that building in Shanghai, or the one with the helix that was superimposed on it. Right in front of it was a school for boys. And could there be a reference or a link to cycling this child trafficking through such sites or around such free trade zones?
Could be. I mean, Comey was on the board of HSBC when the money laundering was found. There's no doubt about it. Whether he was laundering money for the Clintons and whether they got any money out of this directly through the HSBC, I don't remember that coming up in any of the Senate Permanent Investigating Committee reports or others that I read, though there may be a tie that wasn't at the time apparent. Yeah, Stanford is listed in one of the universities in the New World Order. Stanford, we're going to tie Stanford into this much more. Comey's brother is involved in HSBC. I think Comey's brother, doesn't he do taxes for the Clintons through one of the law firms?
Yes. Clinton Foundation, stand by.
There's discussion about the Hillary video being circulated on the dark internet, and I don't really know anything. I don't advise anybody to go looking for it. When it surfaces, should be good enough for everybody because it'll only be legitimate and validated once it surfaces.
Right.
Don't go looking for it on the dark internet.
I would be wary also of it being disinformation, a trap, so to speak. It may not be real. I mean, we're not sure yet. I haven't had a chance to really look into it at all, but that's definitely also a possibility.
Yeah, I wouldn't. None of these things. It's the same with WikiLeaks. If WikiLeaks has something, wait until they drop it.
Yeah.
Wait until they validate it. It doesn't do any good to see it before it's validated and dropped and made public.
It may be an attempt to, it's maybe a fake, and it may be an attempt to discredit all of us by putting out something fake and having everybody freak out about it and get all excited and have it turn out to be a total fake.
I have the data on James Comey's brother. I'll post it in a moment. But James Comey's brother works for the law firm that does the Clinton Foundation taxes.
Right.
Conflict of interest, maybe?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Oh, I said conflict of interest, maybe?
Well, it certainly is interesting. I mean, I've always considered it to be, he was on the board of the HSBC.
And
And Lockheed Martin, he was on that board too. I mean, Clinton, Comey got his payoffs. Comey's worth saying like $11 or $12 million.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's investigated her 3 times.
Yep, he's Clinton's fixer.
Perhaps.
That's what I've termed him a Clinton fixer, one of the many.
I'd call him a backstop.
Yeah, it's okay. Now I wanted to comment before we finish up. I think we'll be continuing to look at some of these and decode more about them as we go along. But I think today I'm going to really study the McCabe Inspector General report. I think it's going to have major ramifications. And I think that the Rosenstein, it was increasingly going to be under pressure. And I've commented repeatedly about the insertion of this Ezra Cohen Watnick, who is military intelligence, into the Department of Justice, who I think is going to be, increasingly important. Oh, here we go. I think this is the article. Yeah, here we go. This is my article on Loretta Lynch that I wrote this morning. Now is up and posted. We drop it in Discord. The Loretta Lynch, I think, are very important. What Trump is doing right now is a little bit of the countering Comey's book, which was, and also positioning, I think, to end Mueller. First to get rid of Rosenstein and then to end Mueller. And the McCabe Inspector General report, which I think is going to be reverberating through Congress today, are going to be a major portion of saying the Department of Justice can investigate itself. And I'm going to also watch for how this Comey develops, because I think Comey is really under much more fire with this book. This book is ultimately going to backfire on Comey. He's going to be, I think, much more now putting himself at the center of a focus. And he's called out Hillary. He's called out Loretta Lynch. He's called out Comey. And so he's made himself kind of at the center of a bunch of these criminals who are ready to bicker among each other as to who did what. And once that begins, once that really gets going, then the criminal process takes on a whole nother dimension. It's often, this is as good as turning state's evidence. They've already started the process of pointing fingers at each other. So I think this week is going to be an important week for watching these developments unfold. I want to make a couple comments more about the Syria attack. As I, argued last week, the Syria attack is not us going to war with Syria. It had a limited purpose. I doubt that we'll do another attack very quickly. Israel may now take over in the Middle East, getting some things Israel wants done. I suspect Iran may do some retaliation through its surrogates in Europe or even in the Middle East to respond. Russia, I think, is going to do very little. And Russia had all of its assets out of Syria that could be damaged. And whether we coordinated or not directly, we telegraphed enough to Russia that Russia knew what was coming down. I don't think we're going to war. I think we're going to be pulling out the troops that we don't need to fight ISIS. Don't think we're going to try to resolve the civil war or to depose Assad. Those are not the considerations. This was a message to Iran and to Russia, and it was preparation for setting up dealing with Iran just the way we've dealt with North Korea, hopefully without a war. And I know my position on that has been somewhat different, a lot different than Alex Jones, but I continue to respect Alex Jones, and I'm sure he's got his points, and he'll be commenting more today, I'm sure, on it. But if you take a look at my article, I think we've now got this. This will be an article that will be widely read, hopefully, today, and what it does is it emphasizes that, new Loretta Lynch revelations shock Comey's book tour, and that's why they were dropped. That's the title of the article. Lynch offered a Supreme Court seat if she exonerated Hillary.
Dr. Corsi, do you have any comment on recent allegations out in the YouTube land? I think Tracy Beans was advancing part of it about the coincidence of the April 12th PADAG conversation release to the Wall Street Journal, and
which conversation was that?
This is the one that was mentioned in the OIG report from Friday.
Okay.
And the second element was the comment on the Anthony Weiner laptop and the threat of the New York police that were involved in that to release it if the FBI did nothing. Any thoughts on that?
Well, the FBI was going to release it, and that's why Comey began reopened the investigation. That's the reason he did it, because the NYPD had the laptop.
Yeah, you had inside the NYPD, didn't you? I know you mentioned this before.
Partly, I helped orchestrate that, because once we knew that Huma Abedi was posting her emails on her Yahoo account, which I consider to be criminal right away. I mean, you can't do that. She's now, Huma Abedi would make State Department cables able to be written in internal emails by anyone to whom she gave her Yahoo password and username, or paid or sold those access. And then I figured, well, it had to be on a computer also that was not a State Department computer, and Weiner was the primary target. And we encouraged the new NYPD to go and see if Weiner was sexting anybody. Figured he had to be. These perverts don't just quit sexting. And then that led to the computer being seized by NYPD and Comey reopening the investigation, which I think he had to do, or NYPD would have just released the information they had on that computer during the last days of the campaign. Basically, the NYPD lost the computer because the FBI from Washington came in and raided. They took it back. They took everything related to Weiner back to Washington, and then Comey came out and ended the investigation within about 48 hours.
Did they get the secondary hard drive, the copy they made?
They got everything. Got everything. They took it all. I talked to the NYPD. They said, we don't have a thing left. They came here and took every single thing, demanded we give it over to them, and they took it to Washington. Well, they didn't really have jurisdiction to do that. Reminded me of JFK's body being taken out of Dallas instead of having the autopsy in Dallas where it should have been held. Killing the president was not a federal crime at that time. It was a local crime, state and local. And so here, all that material went back to Washington. Now, I think we will find out what's on the computer, and it's still extremely hot news about the video. And I think if there's something circulating in the dark internet already about this video, And from what I read about it, which I'm not going to repeat here, it is, if that's true, it's pretty horrendous. Being talked about, in the normal internet, it's being talked about, this video already, which probably is a prelude to its being released. I mean, the two things that will blow this incredibly wide open are the release of the discussion of the tarmac conversation between Hillary and Loretta Lynch. And if that conversation reveals he did offer her a Supreme Court seat, I mean, then people are going to be, that'll sweep the country. Or this Hillary tape that's supposedly on Wiener's laptop. When are they going to be coming out? I don't know that when or if either one will come out. But there's certainly in the discussion, which typically means, that people have them, and it's likely to come out because they can't be controlled anymore. What I encourage everybody is don't go looking for them, because, again, you'll be picked up immediately looking for these things. As soon as you start searching for them, don't do that, because you're just going to put yourself on as a target for any of the investigative agencies who are looking for people searching those documents.
The real ones will be brought to our attention when the time is right.
Yeah.
And when everything's ready.
People asking about my thoughts on John Brennan's involvement in Scalia's death. It had to have been a CIA operation, I think. And so I think Brennan had to have been involved in it. I thought from the beginning that Brennan is a dirty actor, and he's been part of being the CIA handler for Obama. Yes, we need to go back to HSBC. I've always been very critical of Comey's role at HSBC, where he's making millions of dollars on the board, did nothing to stop or catch the money laundering, the international drugs, the terrorist money that was going through that bank. I largely helped bring that to everybody's attention because John Cruz whistleblower came out of the bank's branches with 1,000 pages of documents that showed how they were laundering money. And let's see, people are asking me more about Alex Jones. And I see the tweet sent to you last night of the 2013 video of Alex Jones and the Syria girl. She reveals the real name. I don't know anything about that. I did not see the video, and I don't know anything about that. Alex has his own issues and his own concerns, and he went on, the tirade he went on because of his concerns over the attack in Syria being Trump off course. All the intelligence I had separately from Alex was that this was going to be a limited one-time strike, and it was aimed to send a message to Iran and to Russia, and that there would not be much consequence. I don't expect there to be a military retaliation by Russia. I don't think we're going to do another attack right away. We've made our point. I think that probably ought to be enough. But I think that it basically was the communication of a message, just like we did to North Korea. Okay. Yeah, I'm saying, please, I'm saying people have a right to see these videos. I'm just telling you that if you start going on the internet and looking for a Hillary pedophile sex tape, you're likely to end up being in the surveillance of those intelligence agencies who are screening the internet to find anybody looking for it. That's my only warning. I'm not saying we shouldn't see it. I believe it should become public, and I believe it will become public. But I also expect through this week, I expect Comey's book to fall apart, Comey to be increasingly placed into disagreement and argument between him and McCabe, and I'm going to try to foster that. I'm probably writing about it this week. And I'm also going to start publishing more on the inside of the Silicon Valley, so you can see its corruption, its ties to Stanford, its ties to the CIA, who's who and how it internally operates. So this could be a very, very busy week.
Yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to those, to that writing.
Yeah.
You've been
Okay, so
getting some very interesting information regarding.
Take a look at, yeah, that's going to be very powerful stuff. I guarantee. I've been getting ready. This past weekend, I was just too busy catching up. And as I say, look for the book plates to be in the mail, and also the books that I've signed. And if anyone wants get book plates or books signed, send me an email at JRLC, Jerome Robert Louis Corsi, JRLC at yahoo.com. And please continue to post reviews on yahoo.com. I want to get them over 1,000. There are certain, again, additional benefits that Amazon's required to do or have by policy to do for books to get over 1,000 positive reviews. Huh. And if we can get there, that I think would be a big help to the book. The book is, I think, still doing very well. I'm going to be doing some more tweeting this afternoon. I may or may not do a live chat. We'll just have to see how the day goes. But if you take a look, I've done a couple live chats recently over the weekend that are archived now both on my YouTube channel at JRLCORSI and on Gab. Gab, I've been able now to post videos when before I was having trouble posting videos. And now it seems to be a more sophisticated system that more easily takes the videos on Gab. I'll come back if there's many more posts at the end of the day, and we'll keep watching it. It's going to be a very, very busy week.
Did you guys do 11?
God bless everybody, and thank you very much.
Did you guys do 1168?
Oh, say again?
Did you do 1168?
Yeah, we did. Yep. All right.